Shirley. Amazing. Good to know. Um, if you all just want to kind of click the chat bar there at the bottom and say, hey, so I know that maybe I'm not just talking to myself for the next like hour-ish or so, that'd be fabulous. Or you can give me a Y in there if you can actually hear me, which would be great confirmation to me. Also a double Y if you can see me and hear me, that would be chef's kiss before we proceed. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for playing along. So I have you all for the next hour of your lives, which is going to be amazing. And we are going to discuss everything expensive brunettes related. For those of you who don't know myself, my name is Barrett Anderson. I am a national Canadian Redken artist. So basically, this is wonderful today. I just get to chit chat with you all from my basement, but normally I have the privilege of bopping from coast to coast to see stylists work in their own format, but this will be super duper fun. So just to kind of set you all up for success, I've got a PowerPoint here with me, mainly to aid in visuals, so everybody can follow along. If for some reason there's something you miss or you need, I'm going to try to ping pong back and forth to the chat. Feel free to use it as a tool. I will use it as a tool just to confirm that you're all following along. And if for some reason there's something that you miss, please type it in there. I will do my darndest to get to it in the end. As I said, I've got you for 1 hour, which is not a lot of time. So I basically have a cooking show that's going to come up for you all. So we're going to keep moving and grooving. So on that note, I'm going to bring up the PowerPoint. We're going to get things rocking and rolling. Full disclosure, I do hair, I think, pretty darn well. Technology is not always my strength, so bear with me. I try to be smooth. It doesn't tend to go that way, but just so we're all fully aware of what we're rocking and rolling with, I think that's lovely. It's like I'm not trying to pull the cloak over anybody's eyes or anything like that. So, this is obviously continue to share, perfect. Opening slide, which I know you probably are all very familiar with it. I should have gotten clarification. I doubt you all need to sign in, so I'm just going to keep on moving and grooving. But more importantly, selfishly, that is my handle on Instagram down at the bottom there, at Barrett Lee, if you want to follow along to my life, to hair that's going on. But mainly at the end of this, it would just be really to fill my personal cup. Is if you all have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out via that and DM me. I am there to help people. I know sometimes it takes me a moment to get back to people, but total transparency. I would love to help you in any way, shape, or form that I can. For me, this program is obviously not just about explaining how to achieve a expensive brunette, but it's also for you all to be generating more money behind the chair. So any way that I can help you do that, I am here for you all. Obviously, as we're clicking on through, the big part of this, I know probably most of you have taken Redken education before, but if you haven't, all I want to stress about this is that the age-old saying or whatever, if you keep doing the exact same thing and expecting different results, they kind of maybe call you insane. So I'm just putting forth that if you want to get slightly different outcomes or slightly different end results behind the chair, there's probably a little something that we need to tweak. So maybe what I'm going to say is totally different than what you do. That's okay. Maybe what I say is just a slight little shift in what you do. And that to me is probably even better because that's going to take really good hair color to phenomenally great hair color. So that's all I want you to really keep in mind. Codes of class, we don't need to worry about that. I got you for an hour. I think we've established that. Rocking and rolling. So what I want to cover today, again, in this short hour that I have you all with, or have you all with me, there we go, is we're going to talk about the trends that we're seeing with brunettes. Okay. We're going to talk about how to break it up. We're going to also discuss different products that you could be using behind the chair because sometimes, again, we keep doing the same thing and expecting different results with the product. And it's not always the product. Maybe we just need to change things up. Also, I'm going to give you, because what would be a brunette's program without a few hero shades? Obviously, it's me projecting my taste onto you all, but I think sometimes it's really handy just to have like an image and a go-to formula on those days that we're maybe not feeling that creative, right? And then also, change your results, change what you want to get at the end. We're going to go through that stuff. So as I click on through here, here are some little inspirational images. If you want to take a screenshot or a photo or whatever, do you. Again, this is kind of me projecting onto you all my flavor, my taste, but I'm just going to explain these a little bit to you. So in my opinion, all three of these are expensive brunettes. Would I say we're going from like really dark into a little bit lighter? Yes, but they can all be interpreted in the same format. The other thing I want to let you all know, the trends that are coming. I'm going to say it quietly because it might be traumatic to some people. But the money piece is starting to kind of go away. Yeah, I'll give you 3 seconds to let that marinate, let that process. I'm not saying it's gone anywheres, but it is going. Okay, so when we look at these images, do they have brightness around their face? Most definitely. But is it coming like with a, chunkier kind of placement at the front? No, it's much softer. And if we can talk about the first image, thank you for the one applause there, Gabby. Thank you, thank you. If we can talk about the first image, the one thing I really like to stress about an expensive brunette is that the color is not flat. It's not, as I say, Lego hair, like you plunk it on somebody's head. The other thing that is really important to notice about these images is it almost looks, or I should say, especially the first image, maybe not the last, it almost looks like Mother Nature might have done it, but it's so good that we know that it wasn't done that way. But that's the kind of feel that we want to embrace with our canvas, right? So it's like people, you want them to look at your hair color and be like, oh, like copper, red, or whatever, obviously not naturally existing. But the way in which it's placed in the hair is totally like, oh, is that natural? Is it not? That's the vibe we're kind of going for. All right. So moving on through. The one thing that I really want to stress about this image here, but also what I have up on the screen as well, is that with the American level system, level 2 to 6 is where brunettes are existing. And then the traditional level system, it's 2 to 5, slight difference or whatever. But what I am also trying to stress to you all here is just that 2 to 6 or 2 to 5 is a wide range of color. So even though you think reds and coppers in like their own category of like the reds and coppers, but if you think about their natural base or their foundation, they are actually existing in the world of a brunette in that level system, right? So just take your mind of what you think an expensive brunette could be, and we're now going to expand it to the possibilities are honestly endless. And I think that that's a very important thing to keep in mind. So here we go with the head form. I'm going to bring you back so you can all screenshot this, take a photo of this. I'll probably bring it back up, but I'm going to now take away the PowerPoint situation, and we're just going to have my lovely face, but with a mannequin going here so you can come and play along with my cooking show. So I just need to bring this up so I can see what I'm doing myself. There we go. Fabulous, fabulous. Is everybody following along? Do I still have everybody with me? Give me a thumbs up, a Y in the chat. Just type a letter to acknowledge that you're playing along. That would be totally great. Awesome. Thank you so much for playing along. Perfect. So as we saw in that first image, we have two options here. So we have option number 1, which is this dolly right here, in which, get our center part going, in which we have a top section and a bottom section. But the top section is coming to a point in the front and then rounding out at the back. Option 1. Okay? Yes, thank you very much for that. Don't hesitate if you have any questions. Option 2 is this dolly here, in which the point is at the back and we round out in the front. So same, but also different. The big points of difference in these two heads, or the end result that we will get, is that in the front, with the one coming to a point, it's going to peter off a little bit more in the front and allow the color to come up higher. So if you're thinking back to those 3 images that I had in the front, think image number 2 or image number 3. So this will be a great option for your clients who you know that you're trying to like segue them out of the money piece, but they still want to have a lot of brightness around their face. Okay. Option number 2, with the roundness at the front and more of a point to the back, means the color's going to peter off towards the back, but be a little more evenly distributed towards the front. So in the case of the images that we have there, we're going to think about image number 1. No right, no wrong. I'm just setting you up that you can totally customize this for your client that comes into the chair or comes in and sits in your chair, comes into the salon. So for today's purposes, we're going to go with the point. The reason we're going to go with the point is because, real talk, trends, things that are happening, take a while to come in and out, right? So we want to set our clients up for success. So if they're rocking a money piece right now and they come in and we just totally get rid of that, they're probably going to be like, what have you done to me, right? We're trying to segue them out of the money piece, soften it around the front. They'll still have the brightness around their face that they really, really want, but kind of cushioning the blow of transitioning them into the next phase of their lives. So what we're going to do here is we're going to discuss how we're going to foil her or them. I shouldn't say I've identified them as a she. It's just knee-jerk reaction, what comes out of my mouth. Nothing right, nothing wrong. So what we're going to do is I'm going to place the foils in, and then I'm going to give you the head form after that of how to set yourselves up for success. Now, what you want to keep in mind is with your clients and placing the foils in, we have different options. So at Redken, we say we have diagonal back and we also have diagonal forward. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, diagonal back would be like this, okay? So the ball obviously would roll from the front of her face to the back of her head, okay? That's diagonal back. Diagonal forward is the same, but different. It would be if I place the foils in like this, okay? So the ball is going to start up here and it's going to roll towards the front of their face. So diagonal forward and diagonal back. Fun fact, if they are wearing their hair forward, okay, like this, like I am, right? If I put the diagonal in the opposite direction of how they style their hair, so the hair's coming forward and I'm going to place the foil in backwards, it's actually going to give me more of a pop of color without having to do as much work. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a diagonal back into her hair. So I'm going to go with the center of her hair because we're going to say she has a center part. I'm going to simply clip this hair out of the way so that it doesn't interfere with what I'm doing. And I'm then going to come in and start placing my foils over here. The other thing I want you to keep in mind, little things make a large difference, okay? So what I want you to keep in mind is the moment that we section hair or we break it up, we're putting like a seam in somebody's hair, okay? So what I mean by that is that if I put a seam in, like a lot of times we just go center back, break it up, half and half, call it a day, right? Give me a Y in the chat if you're with me. We break things up. Even Steven, we're always concerned about things being balanced. Yes, thank you for that. What I want you to keep in mind, though, is that this is setting us up that we then have to be robots with our application. And by robots, I mean like we have to be perfect. And ain't nobody perfect, right? So if we put the seam or break things up ever so slightly off center, then that way, if we put the foil in and things are not perfect, it's more so just going to melt into their hair. So I'm bringing hers off just ever so slightly to the right-hand side of her hair. Why am I doing the right-hand side? Just because I'm right-handed and that's ergonomically what makes sense to me. If you're left-handed, pull off to the left-hand side. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's just what works for you. I'm just ever so slightly going to tilt my screen here so you can see a little more of my mannequin head because it ain't about my face, it's about her head. All right, the other thing I want you to keep in mind is the way you place your foils in. We really want to be aware that we are framing her entire face. So big part of like brunettes and things being broken up properly so it doesn't just look like we have like bottom and then top is that we're framing the entire canvas. So we need to make sure that this little corner back here in the back of her hair gets some lightness. This little corner here, right there, is just as important as this little corner right here. Because what happens is this is actually framing her face and her hair. So if you think about artwork on the wall, it would be no different than if you saw artwork on the wall and the frame only had like a side and a top and another side, and there was no bottom to it. We want to make sure her hair also has a bottom. So we need to make sure that this little part back here also gets foiled. Okay, so how we wrap the hair with the foil will totally allow us to ensure that that part gets foiled. So I'm going to come around to the side, and my first foil that I'm going to put in is going to go right along her hairline. Okay, so when I bring it down, you can see already there's a little bit of a hole there. So I'm just simply going to come back up and fill that in to make sure that there's no hole, perfectly balanced, and that the hair is being evenly lifted. So it can be a little more sheer in one spot, but there's still hair the whole way throughout. So when I bring this back, this is where I'm going to start my foil. What type of foil am I going to do, you may ask? Great question. I'm just going to spin her so that she doesn't keep spinning on me and she stays in the spot. We want to keep in mind that this part right here is what's going to fall against her face. So I really probably want this part to be a little softer. So I'm going to do a weave. So whether you want to do a micro stitch or a baby light, if you want to do a regular stitch, or you want to do a slice, skip, slice, that's up to you. But I'm just going to make sure that this part gets weaved so that it's falling softer against her face, so that if and when her hair comes back, it's soft and it's not too strong right against her face. So I'm just going to put on gloves here so we can all follow along with the rules, if you would, of making sure we're coloring with gloves. Okay. We are doing a diagonal back placement. All right. Her hair is coming forward, so it's going to give us maximum impact, which is fabulous. Good bang for our buck. That means less foils, but more impact. Dare I say, for our clients, if they so choose, less money, maybe less time. However you want to work that with your client, that's totally up to you. But it just gives you wiggle room with what you're actually going to do with your client. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to weave this. So even though we've already established that money pieces are going out, it is still important that this part, this little piece right here, does get foiled. So what you need to be cognizant of is that when you go to foil, is it, are you picking, as I do, naturally I pick, or are you naturally pushing when you go through? There's no right or no wrong, but it just matters in terms of making sure that this little bit here does actually get foiled. So for me, I'm going to come in and I'm going to weave, and I'm a picker. So what happens for me is the part that's really important to be foiled is right here. So that's in the upper portion of my foil, not in my lower portion. If I was a pusher, the important portion that needs to be colored would be the lower, not the upper. Give me a Y in the chat if you're with me. We need to make sure that this little part here, so if you're a picker, top part, pusher, bottom part. Marvelous. Now, I know what you're all thinking too. This is a very wide section, Barrett, like very wide section. And it is, it's meant to be. And that's going to work for us, okay? So what's going to happen is when we go to put this foil in, our focal point is up here. Our not focal point is right here around the ear. So naturally, because the width of our foil is yish of the width of the section, but obviously we folded on both sides, so it's going to be smaller. So what we're going to create is drag, and it's going to be really, really good. It's going to look off-putting to us when we put the foil in because we're so trained to be within a peace sign, but it's actually going to work really, really well for us. So what we do is we concentrate on this front part right here. I come in with my foil. All right. And what did I say is important? This front bit. So when I elevate it to get it nice and tight, I'm going to bring the foil under, right? And right there is going to be super snug. And over here, it's already from my side profile that you can't all see. It's like hopping almost like an inch and a half, which is fabulous. So I'm going to charge my brush with my product of choice. In this case, my go-to is blonde icing. I love that jazz. If flash lift bonder inside is more your thing, whatever floats your boat. But we're going to apply it right here straight up into zone 1 and a hard like saturation line. So meaning I don't want to like dissipate the concentration of product that's happening here versus here. I want it all to be the exact same. So once I have the line established, okay, so I have it established, it's about an inch or so in thickness, then I can start working the product down. If you've noticed, I still have I'm still holding their hair. I have not let go. Still have full control over the situation. Now I'm going to release the hair and I'm going to come in and saturate the ends. All right. So how you want to do so is totally up to you, but obviously making sure that our concentration of product is the exact same through the ends as it is through the top. Now, depending on your vantage point right now, you might already be able to see what's happening over here, and it's so good. Okay, the drag is occurring. Literally, as I work the product through the ends, it's pulling the other part of the hair down, and the distribution, if I could speak, that would be fabulous, of the product is starting to happen. So I'm going to bring you real close into this head so you can see it. See all of that right there? That you're all probably like, what is she doing? What is she doing? And then over here looks so like lovely. And then this is like whatever. But what is happening, because we're now actually corralling, if you would, or moving this hair over here and not saturating right here, we're going to get a beautiful drag line that's basically going to exist right at your client's ear, which is fabulous. Because be it if you're brunette, if you're blonde, if you're copper, if you're whatever you are, if you have naturally occurring lighter bits in your hair, the natural way it happens is here, right? Most people are not existing in life like this, and their color is getting lightened from Mother Nature or the sun on the side, right? It's happening on the top. So now we have this beautiful drag created on the side. We can fold up the foil. Then we can lock it in place, right? And we know that it's not fully saturated right over here, but that is fabulous. So like right there, see how that hair is just kind of like hopping out of the foil? That is fabulous because now we have naturally occurring drag that is actually based totally on your client's head shape. So when their hair goes back, it's going to be softer than soft can be around their ear, which I think is again how you're taking great hair color to like chef's kiss hair color because it's naturally based. So then behind this, we're going to go with our next foil. How far am I breaking it up or how far down am I going? That kind of depends on how much color your client wants. It's up to you. I typically go about 1/2 inch or so. And again, I'm still working with a diagonal back section. Now my next one, there we go, because I'm not against their hairline anymore. I am safe now just to go in and rock and roll with a slice because ain't nobody got time for anything other than that. So I come in, I take the full slice. All right. I elevate the hair right up because I want to have control and the ability to come in nice and tight to that section and get full color distribution for my client. Now, if you want to come in and do a root drop, like 1 inch or so down, by all means, go right ahead. It's totally your canvas, your client's conversation that you've had, your consult that you've had. You know what their end result is and what they want to see on their hair. That is totally up to you. For simplicity's sake today, we're just going straight up into zone 1 and fully saturating everything. But again, that is totally up to you as to whether you want to or not. All right. So what are we doing next? Put a B in the chat for diagonal back or put an F in the chat for a diagonal forward. What are we rocking and rolling with here? Anybody gonna play along with me? A B, perfect, a diagonal back, awesome. So I'm gonna secure on the side, and if you want to secure on the other side, you totally can. Then I'm going to rotate around, and now I'm coming back to a diagonal back. And what you're gonna see on this third foil, because again, we're doing roughly about a 1/2 inch 3/4 of an inch space in between the two, is that on my next foil, I'm now into that perfect area that I said is so important to frame out your client's hair color. So boom, you don't even have to do more than 3 foils if you don't want to. We're going to continue around, but just by working with the shape of one's head, we know that instantaneously I'm now framing it out perfectly. Now, what we need to think about here is this the part that really needs to be super high up into zone 1? Or is the framework where I really need to be super strong and into zone 1? You guessed it, the bottom. So what we're going to be really tight with is down here. What we're going to be loosey-goosey with is up here. And do you know what's going to happen? We're going to get, again, the most perfect melt situation happening right around here, which is like super natural and what we actually want to see with expensive brunettes. So I'm going to come in. So again, along this top section, I'm going to come in and do one big slice. All right. So part of the framework at the bottom is not going to get color, but part of it is, and that will just result in the most beautiful melt when the hair comes back. So I'm going to grab this honkin'. What is it? Honkin' slice of color. I'm going to come in with my foil, and I've already established that down below here at the bottom is my important part. So you can see how this is nice and tight, and this is just like, I'm going to say wonky looking. Do you know what I mean? Like there's no better word. But as off-putting as that is to people who are very rigid in particular with their foils, this is going to be chef's kiss in terms of the end result. So while I still have control of the hair, right? I haven't let go. I'm coming in with a hardcore amount of product. Again, product of your choice. In my situation right now, blonde icing, fabulous, love it. Okay, if you're an up to 7 person, do your thing. We did just launch a new lightener too, so keep your eyes out for that because that would be incredible too. Blonde IQ coming your way. Oh, so delicious. It's so exciting. So we're going to place a good amount of color right there. Now I can release and I don't have fear of things moving and grooving out of my control, right? I've had full control over the hair to place the product exactly where I need it. So now when I go to saturate the ends, if I do blouse this out or pull this down, I'm not going back up into that with my brush. I'm allowing it to work with the head shape to give the end result that I want. So continue, saturate the ends, fold things up, saturate, saturate, because again, we want the ends just as much saturated as we do the top. A key thing here too, again, little things, big differences, is allowing, I'm just admitting people into the room, don't mind me as I multitask here. The big thing that we want to make sure is saturation of product is even throughout the canvas. Therefore, we get even lift. So whether you're using Blonde IQ, whether you're using blonde icing, whether you're using flash lift with bonder inside, whatever product is your flavor of choice, do you. But the one thing I want you to stress, and the very important thing is making saturation of product is the same up here as it is down there. So then our lift is continuous and even throughout the canvas. So I'm going to fold it up, bear with my arm here for but a moment, fold it up, tuck under. And then one thing, when you lock on the end here, you can lock in a traditional sense. When you're locking up here where we've kind of got a little bit of drag, you can always just lock on a corner or on an angle like that as to not make sure that we're squishing and gushing our wonderful little situation that we have going on here. So again, lock in the traditional sense, and then if you want to just lock on the corner, that's also totally fine. So 3 foils. I'm going to keep going with 2 more. Why 2 more? Because I always say, you want to be just like me, odd. So if you want maximum contrast, meaning a really punchy end result, 3 foils. If you want a medium contrast, which is exactly what we're doing here, which dare I say, I reference this in the most respectful way, but think of like your basic situation. You have a basic kind of client, a basic kind of feel for what they want out of life, 5 foils. Okay, if they want minimal, like really like dipping their toe, want it to be ultra soft, as weird as it sounds, more. So then it would be 7. But again, always odd. Be like me. 3, 5, or 7. So she is our basic gal. So she's getting 5. So we've done 3. So that means we just have to do 2 more slices. So again, the next one, about 1/2 inch to 1 inch section between the two, right? Come here. Now we can already see how we're going into where our hair is sectioned in the back, because again, we pulled it off from center to be more natural. So when we clip this hair out of the way, again, it's a fairly like broad, wide section. That's okay. We're still using the same principle of this is our area of importance. This is our area where we want to see the drag. And then what's going to happen as well is that when our hair comes down, you're going to actually have the most perfect drag, or dare I say, root melt, without actually having to do a root melt, which is fabulous. So we're going to come in. This is one big slice again. Other than our first foil, everything is a slice. We're coming in. We're elevating it straight up and off of her hair so we can get it in nice and tight and snug. We're placing the foil underneath. Well, I should have control of the hair while I do that. Let me try again. Okay, up, down, over, perfect. This is nice and tight. And this you can see is like almost like an inch, almost 2 inches drag from the top, which is fabulous. That works for us very, very well. So we're coming in saturation heavy right across the foil. I'm not applying the product off of the foil. I should stress that. The foil is still always my boundary for where the product goes. I'm not just painting off into La La Land. So then I'm bringing this down, and what's happening is there we go. We move the product over so we have control of the product. The root drag is happening, but I still have control of their hair. So now I can release once I've got enough there. Basically, if you can do like hands-free lightning, you know you've got enough product. Come in to saturate the ends. Work the product through, side to side if you want, much like if you're painting a wall in a house to get maximum saturation. Paint, 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 saturate, saturate, work the product through, because again, we want to make sure that our saturation at the top is the exact same as the saturation at the bottom, right? So then I fold up, and how many foils do I now have? Put it in the chat. How many foils do we have? Traditional lock, not traditional lock. How many foils was that, my friends? Somebody gonna play along? 4. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. So now we have one more to do, right? Because we are always going to do odds, right? What are your odd options? If you want maximum contrast, how many foils am I putting in? Starts with the thr, ends in an E. Put it in the chat. Perfect. 3. If I want basic level of application of color, how many am I putting in? Starts with an F, ends in an I. 5. Perfect. And if I want minimal or very, very soft end results, I'm doing 7. But the key thing there is we're always being odd. So then we can see now by the time we get to the 5th foil, because we're wrapping around the hair and we're working with the roundness of the head shape, I'm now back to basically a very reasonable size foil that is not a challenge. It's not awkward. It's not anything for me to put into the hair. So that's huge. So what you want to experience is, keep in mind when you're doing this on your own, when you're practicing on a mannequin head or doing it on a client, the first 4 foils or so are going to feel very big, large, awkward. Dare I say, you might not be thinking of me in a very fond way, but I'm okay with that. By the time you get to the 5th, you should be back to feeling very comfortable, very normal amount of hair that you're working with. Everything should work just fine. So then I'm going to fold up, and I now can lock both sides in a traditional format of just side, side, good to go. All right, 5 foils, whole bottom part of their hair is done. Obviously, if it was real time and we were really doing this, we would then go forth and do the opposite side. For the interest sake of only having an hour with you all, we're not going to do that right now. But is everybody with me? Give me a Y in the chat if you're still with me. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for playing along. So that's how we break up the bottom, right? Less is more. If it was a client of, again, circling back to our images that we saw. So first image, she would be round at the front, not the point like we just did, right? Second image, she would be the point that we just did. But both of those images would be done once we're done the bottom. We don't need to worry about coloring the top. That's not an area of focus in terms of expensive brunettes. We literally are just trying to add a little pop of color throughout the bottom parts of people's hair. So now I'm going to bring you back up to our PowerPoint because I want to share with you all obviously what we just went over, but then also moving forward of what we're going to do. So these are our two options, which I know you all took a picture of prior to because you're doing such a fabulous job of playing along. But these are our two options for how we're going to section out the top in order to foil the bottom. Then when we get into, this is how we're going to foil the bottom. So obviously we did the diagonal back addition. Do you have to do the diagonal back addition? No. You're going to have a conversation with your clients over whether they want maximum impact, which if they wear their hair forward like I am right now, diagonal back will give them maximum. If they want minimal or more soft look, then you're going to do diagonal forward, which is the opposite image. So again, I just want to give you both options to play with in terms of customizing to your clients, because your clients are your clients. Can I show the previous slide again? My golly gee, I sure can. Oh, I say that and then I don't know how. There we go. So previous slide, point at the front, point at the back. So main difference is if the point is at the front, you're kind of transitioning them out of, no problem. You're transitioning them out of a money piece, but still not trying to shell shock them too much. So they will still have a good amount of brightness around their face. So then option 2 for how we're foiling the bottom, it's up to you. Diagonal back, diagonal forward. There is no right, there is no wrong. It's your customization to your clients. But what I think is very important is to have both of these images just at the ready when you're in the salon to just remind yourself that, oh yes, you have creative freedom, my friends. It's totally your clients are your clients and they are your clients for a reason. So now you have the conversation with them of whether they want maximum impact or minimal impact. Then onto our next foil or our next slide about foils is just kind of stressing to you 2 points. One, again, creative freedom. So you have the option on all those diagonal backs or all those diagonal forwards to kind of do things how you want. Obviously today, as I showed you, we did the very first one as a regular stitch to soften things when her hair goes up or off of their face, right? There is nothing to say that you can't start off with slices right out of the gate if that's your feel. Also, conversely, if you're just trying to dip your toe into the situation, you can do a micro stitch to kind of get comfortable with trying not to put too much boldness around somebody's face. Okay, yes, I will explain that in 1 second about explaining the why in terms of choosing diagonal forward versus diagonal back, but in a way that talks to your client about it. Okay, great. So, but on the note of the slices too, just keep in mind the visual component at the bottom between a micro stitch and then a slice. So the two opposite ends of the spectrum. Visually, there's not a big difference. But what I will say is time-wise, there's a huge difference. So dip your toe into a micro stitch where you need it, be it part lines, hair lines. But other than that, the sooner you can get more comfortable with slicing and using the head form to your advantage, the better off you will be. Excuse me. So with the client, in terms of diagonal forward, okay? If they have, if they wear their hair like a bob, okay? We're not going really like forward or we're not going back. It's kind of up to you. But what's going to happen is if you have, I'll use myself as an example here, if that's okay with you all. If you style hair forward, like, you know, push all of it forward, do all the things. If you go with the grain, so with how it's being styled, this is what you'd say to your clients. If you're going with the grain of your clients' styling choices, you are going to get minimal pop of color. So it's going to be ultra, ultra soft. So if this is your client's very first time experiencing color in their hair, I would totally recommend doing a diagonal forward, because then it basically will just seamlessly melt into their hair. If you have a client who comes in and is like, oh, I really like, what we've been doing. I like how my hair's kind of broken up, but I want more of it, right? I need more. I want to see more of this color. I really like it. Or, I've been, whatever I've been doing all summer long, my hair is lightened. I want more of it. If you go against the grain of their hair, it's still going to be very soft because you're still on diagonals that are wrapping around the round part of their hair. But if you go against the grain, you will get more contrast. So what will happen is you will be able to see more of that color pop through their hair. So if they want to see more, go against it. And if you want to see less, go with it, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question about how to talk to a client about it? The other great thing as like stylist to stylist is that sometimes a client comes in, oh, you're most welcome. Sometimes a client comes in and genuinely is like, oh my gosh, I love the color you put in my hair last time. I just want to see more of it. And then you go into foil and you're literally like, there's no more hair to foil. Like they don't have a ton of hair, which is a very reasonable situation to come across. So what you can do is instantly be like, oh yeah, like I can't lighten more of it because I need the dark to see the light. Conversely, I need the framework to be there, but then to be balanced out properly. But what you know now is that you can actually visually create the illusion of more hair. So if you just do the opposite direction of what you did before, be it diagonal back or diagonal forward, if you just then put in the next round of foils the opposite way, it will instantly give them more of that color without having to create more hair that you can't necessarily create. If that's a win in the chat, give me a Y or a thumbs up if that's also a win. Awesome. So glad. All right. So moving forward, if that's all right with everybody, do I have everybody's permission to move forward? Awesome. Here we go. So here are your stitch options. Okay. Again, just a visual for you to remember when you go back and you reference your stuff about, oh yeah, I can do it this way. I can do it that way. There is no right. There is no wrong. It's because you are the professional and you're going to recommend to your clients what they need behind the chair. So moving forward, I'm going to give you a hot tip though too, especially when it comes to expensive brunettes. All right. Or if you have somebody who wants to go into more of like a red situation of any variety, be it strawberry blonde, copper, ginger, whatever, is that we should change up the products that we're using. So I've referenced a bunch of our lighteners, which are fabulous. So Blonde IQ, which has just come on the market. So please, the moment you can get your hands on that, play with it, experiment with it. It's insane. Also Flash Lift with bonder inside, blonde icing, all fabulous products, but all three of those things are lighteners. Okay, so I don't want you to forget about other tools that Redken has to offer you. So there's also shades, not shades, there's color gels, oils, clear. Okay, comes in the bottle, color gels, oils, clear. You can use that. It will give you raw lift. The one hot tip I would give you though is only exist in the world of like a 30 volume or a 40 volume. Otherwise you're going to kind of waste your time, but it can give raw lift to brunettes. It can give raw lift to previously colored hair. And what is amazing is it ends up being like a raw lift on a brunette canvas. So it typically stays warmer, which is fabulous. It's also wonderful for redheads and coppers because it will stay warmer, which is way more complementary to the canvas. The other thing to keep in mind too, another flavor option if you would like, is fusion. So color fusion. And then in that or within that, you could be using like a 9 series, a 10 series, or even a 12 series. Because again, remember the lift comes from the box or the bottle of color, right? So again, if you mix it with 30 volume or 40 volume, color can lift color, just not predictably. So, test strand it out, play around with it, but it just gives you another option to create a different level of lift in your clients. Because especially with expensive brunettes, we don't always need to take them way far beyond the point of whatever. They just need a little, like Mother Nature's sun kissed the situation, right? The other thing that you can do if you want to even really like take it to the next level is like in these 5 foils, you could start off with lightener, right? So it's lighter and brighter around their face, but then you could peter off to like Color Fusion 12 series here, or like Color Gels, Oils, and 30 volume here, clear, here, and here, and here, and here. So then again, you're actually painting in a grade on their hair, which is fabulous because again, Mother Nature would lift your hair lighter and brighter towards the front part of your face, but probably realistically towards the back part of your head might get it lifted, but it wouldn't get it lifted as much. So again, it's taking our color options, our tools that we have at our fingertips, and working with them to give those clients that much more of an elevated experience behind the chair. All right, give me a Y if you're with me, or a thumbs up if you're with me. However you'd like to play along. Thank you very much, my friends. We're going to keep on moving on. So here are some hero shades. Again, this is me throwing at you what floats my boat. Not right, not wrong, but sometimes these images are great just to have on hand to have a conversation with your clients. Also, verbiage, real talk. Been doing hair for a minute now. Sometimes clients come in and they're like, what's new? What's trending? You know what I mean? And not that we don't want to have that conversation because a lot of us are totally into that vibe. But sometimes it's like, how do I just like reword what we did last year? But here you go, right? New verbiage, new ways of saying kind of the same thing. So obviously, just to allow you to understand my slide, the old money brown, first image you're seeing there. Chestnut brown, second image you're seeing there. They kind of flow like that so that you can all follow along with everything. But again, using terms that kind of relate to clients, but also relate to the trends. You go to TikTok, you go to wherever you're going for your social media vibes, Pinterest, Instagram, whatever it may be. You're probably seeing certain things are very like trendy or happening. So we want our hair verbiage to also coincide with that. The other thing that I think is super important to realize too with the shades that you're seeing or the flavors that I'm giving you is like the hero shades is they're all pretty warm because warm hair is very much so in. The other thing, hence circling back to your lightening product of choice, is that if you use color to lift the base, you will more likely maintain the level of warmth that you need. The other thing is that if you are somebody, and I respect everybody's wishes, that if you'd like to live in the world of lighteners, just gear down. So like if you're pretty much always like a 20 volume lightener situation, maybe go down to a 10 volume just to ensure that you're leaving more of that warmth there, because that's what's really going to make your hair or your end result or your canvas really have that sheen to it and really give that expensive feel to it. All right, permission to move on to the top, my friends. Give me a thumbs up or a Y in the chat if you're with me. I can wiggle and dance among myself till somebody gives me a little something something. Y? Thumbs up in the chat? Anybody? Somebody gonna play along? All right, I'm gonna move on to the next slide. Thank you very much for playing along. Screenshot this if you want it. If you didn't get it, I can always come back to it, but all right. So this bad boy looks complicated AF. It's not that bad, but I'm going to get you to screenshot it and then we're going to go over it. So total transparency. This is if you want to install a money piece for the front veils that you're seeing there in the hair. You don't necessarily have to do that, but the way in which this is set up, it will ensure that your money piece in the front is ultra, ultra soft. So again, if you're trying to segue your clients out of it, it's like they're still dipping their toe into it, but not totally fully submerging their toes. So I'm going to bring down the PowerPoint if you would, bring myself back up. Perfect. And then we're going to keep rocking and rolling here. So again, cooking show, she's done. She's the underneath. You're all good to go on that. Now what we have is our lovely client here that I have, and just total transparency. She's been sectioned off on the bottom because she's already got the color done on the bottom, and the only part that we're dealing with is on the top. All right, again, you never actually want to eat my cooking, but you know, with hair and stuff, I feel like it works out okay. All right, so again, same thing. Center part, we're just using that for the purposes of balance. And then again, in the back, when we go to section it off, you're going to either section off to the right or the left, depending on what hand you are. I am right-handed, so I naturally pull off from the high point of their head. So place a comb there, rock it back and forth, find out where the high point is, and then pull off to that side. Doesn't have to be like a crazy strong off to one side or the other, just a slight knot in the middle situation. Now what you've created, though, you need to keep in mind is I've now ever so slightly created a large side and a small side, meaning because I pulled off to the right-hand side, this side over here is a little bit smaller than the other. So what I need to do is I then need to balance my T-zone, if you would, at the top to balance that out. So then when I rock my comb back and forth and I find the high point, we normally would then just go straight down to the top of one's ear. Because I'm on her slightly smaller side, I'm going to balance that out by bringing it off to just a little bit in front of one's ear. So again, if I could go all the way down normally, that's where I would go. What I'm going to do here just to balance things out is just take a little tiny pie wedge here, and then that's where I'm going to section her out. Because again, when we install sections or partings, we create artificial seams in the hair. And our goal is to create artificial seams that look natural and not artificial. So again, quadrant number 1, quadrant number 2. Same, but different on the other side. So because this side is a little bit larger, when it comes to sectioning down from the high point of her head, as opposed to just going to the top point of her ear, there we go, which we are here, we're ever so slightly going to bring it back. It's not a major amount, honestly. If you want to like measure it out, it might be like a quarter of an inch, but it makes all the difference in the world. So what we have now done is we still have the 4 quadrants on the top of the head. However, the way that we have balanced it out is all that we've done is we've kind of ever so slightly twisted it. Just a little slight twist, which again makes everything be that much more natural and soft on the hair. So then I'm going to come in for the first front quadrant, and I'm going to, again, same principle as before, take my slice along the top, but then again, I need to break my slice down. So I'm going to weave it. For me, I don't want to get this top part, and I want this bottom veil to be what I actually foil. So make sure those 3 little bits are in my, so top section, bottom section. I'm going to, in this case, foil the bottom section. All right. So I'm going to come in with my foil, elevate very high up to get maximum saturation into zone 1, place down my foil over top, and then saturate straight up into zone 1. Again, I always maintain full control of the hair and the ends so that it's very easy for me to saturate the hair strand perfectly and maximize on my lifts, but also maximize on my evenness of lift. So then I come in, I fold up, and I can classically tighten if I want on both sides. Then I'm going to come in, because I'm working my way down the head, okay? I can then simply push this foil out of my way, and now I'm going to come in about another ½ an inch or so away from that foil, and this is where my next one is going to go. So again, I'm placing the foils in horizontally to the room. This is my section in between. I can simply clip that out of the way. I'm then going to come in, and I don't need to worry about this part here because I have it sectioned out of the way from my previous section. I come in and I now am going to exist in the land of a slice. So full-blown slice. Come in with my foil. Maximum elevation to get maximum snugness and tightness. Pull the foil down. Maintaining full control of the hair the whole way. Okay, I haven't released anything. Maximum saturation through zone 1, all the way through zones 2 and 3. Still holding onto the hair to ensure maximum concentration of product and lift and saturation of the product to get that lift. Saturate, saturate, fold up, and then if you take a look at that head form you took a screenshot of, the colors are not just there to look pretty, the colors are there for a reason. So the first one is a micro stitch or regular slice, whichever you prefer. The second one is a slice, which is why it's the same color the whole way through. Then again, about a ½ inch down, I take my next parting. Okay. And then the third one is going to be a slice with a drop root. Why, you may ask? Because now at this point, I've actually reached, if I place my comb here, I've reached exactly where the roundness or the side portion of where you're coming into your client's hair will be. What you want to keep in mind is if I put a regular slice right here at the most round part of their hair, it's almost going to look like a blob of color. So by coming in and doing a slice, but a slice with a drop root, I'm then going to extend the color down just a little bit so that the color is just naturally melting around the round part of their head versus being like a blob and then coming down. We're softening it before we even need to. So again, we can elevate very high up if we want to. It's not necessarily needed on this foil because we're just pulling things down. All right, so we're going to do a drop root. To me, a drop root is yish of about an inch. If you think differently, well then do your thing. So I'm putting a hefty amount of product there because when I come in with the back part of my brush, once I kind of clean it off, what I want to do is soften the line, not the product. So I'm going to come in sideways so you can all see. I've got a hefty amount of product. I'm still holding onto the hair, coming in with the brush, and I'm going. If you missed that, it was a and that's it. And then I'm not touching that area again. Then I'm coming in and fully saturating the ends. And I'm trusting that up there, I have just softened the line, not the product. Okay? Give me a Y in the chat if that makes sense to you. Wonderful. Thank you for playing along, my friends. So when you fold up on this one, just make sure you don't fold up into where you just spent that time saturate or softening the saturation, right? You want to make sure that your ends are not folded up into that. Then I fold up into there, and then bada bing, bada boom, we're done. So again, bottom one, slice with a drop root. Next one, on top of that, is a regular slice. Then the one that is on top of that that's existing at the part line is a either micro stitch or a regular weave, whichever floats your boat. Okay, so that's all for the front quadrant. The same would be on the opposite quadrant, just in the interest sake of having like 10 more seconds with you. That's all we're doing. So now we move to the back. So now this front part was done horizontally to the room with our foil placements existing in sheets. The back, because everything changes at the high point of the head, we're now going to switch to vertical, up and down. Okay, so again, same foil placement. I'm coming in right here. This is where foil number 1 is going. And just like the front pattern, it doesn't change. It's going to be a regular stitch or micro stitch, whichever you prefer. So I create a top, I create a bottom. Clip that out of the way. Regular stitch goes in. Then I come in ½ an inch over from the bottom, but I go straight up to the top, much like a pie wedge section for where foil number 2 is going to go. So that is a slice, right? Then I'm going to come over another ½ an inch section, but again, pie wedge section. So everything is still coming up to the top part of the hair. I'm going to flip this so you can all see. And right here, I'm going to put in a slice with a drop root. But keep in mind, my sectioning where it's coming to is all up here. It's all coming to a triangle. So your foils in the back are going in like you're putting in slices of pizza. Okay? Radially. Give me a Y in the chat if you're with me. Awesome. And then that's our hour. So in the interest sake of cooking show, pop this head off. And if we do all that and the same but different, this is a bob, but the same end result. So key components to take away here is underneath how we did things. We put in our first foil to give maximum impact, but if you think about when their hair comes back, it's so soft. You can see it there. See how there's more depth at the ear? That's that beautiful drag working for us, right? So that's how everything's done underneath. Then we come over top, and as we can see, it's super duper soft. There's definitely a concentration of brightness towards the front part of her face, but that's what we wanted because we don't want her to have a hardcore money piece situation, but we do want brightness and lightness towards the face because that's where they're comfortable at. All right, my friends, I hope this was helpful. I hope the last hour was worth your while. I hope it wasn't too intense. If you learned at least one thing, give me a Y in the chat. Thank you. I do want to say, because I've gone beyond my time for 1 minute, I'm just going to take 10 more seconds. Please, by all means, at Barrett Lee, I'm going to put it in the group chat. Reach out if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Please don't hesitate to message me. At the end of the day, it's all about us earning a better living to live a better life. And I thank you very much I can't even talk. On behalf of myself and Redken, enjoy your day. Bye.